This has been a tough 48 hours, to be honest with you. But it was nice to kind of see us out there today. Yesterday was kind of a up and down practice. A lot of things running around. We've had a bunch of our own little meetings. But I think today we kind of snapped ourselves back into it, me included, coaching staff and everybody, and went out there for about an hour and 45 minutes. And we were just in spiders and things like that. But the guys really did a great job. The guys up front did a great job of competing with one another, but also, not getting out of control because we weren't in pads. And, the only way you can function and really get things done is those guys up front have got to really be pros and work together, especially when, you're not in shoulder pads and things like that, the pace of practice. So where it is really trying, I think that we've got some really good leadership, and I think our guys are in a much better place as we continue to navigate through this unique time of trying to figure out where we are and what we're going to be doing.
Okay, let's go with questions. Justin, why don't you lead us off?
Hey, Coach, I know this is your favorite topic to talk about, but just curious your general thoughts, whether it was the MAC and obviously the major impact that had on your guys' schedule or any of the other conferences, and talk about them pushing to spring and how you feel about all of that past couple of days.
I feel great about what it is that we're doing, and I try not to spend a whole lot of time. The schedule stuff doesn't bother me. Obviously, when the MAC dropped, Mr. Cunningham and I had kind of talked, said, we would love to try to find if we're rolling some other games. So I think I'm not worried about that. I've kind of let him do that. Whatever it is that they're doing on their part, I think the unique thing for me is with all the things that are going on, whether it's the MAC, whether it's, hey, the Big Ten's going to make a statement, the only thing I worry about is the mindset of our 110, 12, 14 guys that we've got out here. And that's enough, believe me. There's plenty there to try to navigate through. And more than anything, I've learned a lot from our guys, and more than anything, all they want is information, because it's really difficult at their age, maybe even being off campus where we are, it's really difficult to understand what information is really out there and what's legit and what's true and what should they believe, regardless of whether they're talking about, NCAA in general, our league in general, the other leagues in general, just with everything. I think, some way, somehow, we've got to just continue to do a great job at communication and not allow those outside world things to affect us. There's a lot of things that are going to be dictated to us, but we need to control the things that we can control.
Go ahead with some questions.
Coach, with that in mind, what did it mean to you to have the commissioner make the statement he did yesterday that AAC is going on as planned with all these other leagues folding?
To be honest, I didn't really see it, but we had not a call with the entire group, but had known where the commissioner was. He's been pretty adamant to us about what they believed and what their thought was and how they were going to continue to push forward. I actually called yesterday just to kind of see if we had any alignments, like are we aligned more with the ACC because of our officials? Are we aligned more with the SEC? Our league is really well spread out, so we aren't tied regionally to anybody in particular. So I think we've been as well, read and as well organized as any group. I'm not saying I know what the Big Ten and the SEC and the ACC are all doing, but I think we've been pretty well informed since this whole thing started at where we were information-wise, where we were with the risks that are at hand, and know where our league as a general and our commissioner in particular was going to head in all of this. So it hasn't been a surprise to me, because I think our league has done a really, really good job from day one of being really open with us and communicating well with us.
Coach, how much communication has there been between you and other coaches in the league, or have you guys had a chance to talk and see where everybody's at to kind of get on the same page, or is it relying on the athletic directors and administrators?
Well, maybe that's a downfall, Chad, of mine. I don't have a whole lot of friends, so I don't think I've made a whole lot of phone calls. They actually sent out everybody's cell numbers to all the coaches, I guess, last night or yesterday, in case maybe we wanted to reach out to someone. I don't know. I rely on our people. I rely on the commissioner telling us what it is that we're doing. Like I said, we are so spread out It's not like, we're kind of even dealing with a lot of the same, area rules and things like that, whether it's Ohio, whether it's Texas, whether it's Florida. And then we haven't had to speak to each other a whole bunch, because our league and our commissioner and them have done a really good job at communication with us. So I don't think there's any confusion as to where we are, what's going on at different places with, maybe their groups of guys. I mean, everybody's so different that, I don't know that what they're dealing with can really help me deal with what I'm dealing with, and I think it's unique for every coach and every program.
Coach, can you fill us in on the mood of your guys? I mean, there's so much noise out there. There's different information. It seems like every hour there's more and more. How are your guys' mood, and how are they dealing with all of this?
It's very difficult. I mean, I can't tell you that's not difficult for me. And I'm a guy that lives under a rock and doesn't read anything. But it is very difficult. You don't have to ask them. You don't have to have a meeting with them to see it. You can see it in demeanors. You can see it in body language. But I think that when we do get that chance, we're kind of out here and with not a whole lot of other things, and all we have is each other, which is really a great thing. Once we do get to the field, once we can kind of lock our minds into doing what we love to do, I think they've been great. It's that idle time, which is really difficult. So for me and them, we had some really good meetings. No more than all they want is as much information that I know as possible. And I think that's where it really makes them feel better. But it's a roller coaster. I mean, yesterday was a much more difficult day than we have had in probably any days. Today it looks like it went really well this morning, and I think our guys are in a better place. But that's as a whole. There's always going to be those stragglers here and there that have some different things that go on inside their head. But that's the job of us as a coach. There's maybe a lot more time that needs to be spent off the field, not teaching football, but really trying to, get down to what it is that those guys in each one of those unit rooms, what's going through their head maybe personally in a lot of things. So a lot of time is spent with that for sure.
Coach, would you think it's possible to hold a season off in the spring?
In the spring? I don't think so, to be honest with you. Again, I don't know. I just think it's a really difficult situation, meaning that, a lot of our guys have some goals and aspirations of playing at the next level. And you go spring and try to go fall all over again. Personally, if it doesn't happen and doesn't get done, then, I think it becomes a wash. And I don't know that you would do anything in the spring different. Personally, maybe you could have a scrimmage in the spring. If you had spring ball and you could have a scrimmage, maybe that would suffice as just your normal spring football. But to truly play some semblance of a schedule for us, I think it'd be really difficult. And I think it would be even more difficult for, some of the other leagues, Big Ten, SEC, and that. So if it's difficult for them, I think it's going to be really difficult for us as well.
Coach, any desire to talk about practice and how the team's been looking over the past couple of days?
Well, I gave them their option this morning. We kind of had we left it up to the O-line and D-line as to what we would wear for practice today. And they chose the spiders. So practice was not kind of the full padded practice that we would normally go through. But nonetheless, it was an hour and 45 minutes, very efficient, much more upbeat than even yesterday was. And I think that's a good sign to the guys that, are communicating with each other and, have put a lot of things out there so that they can go out and play. So I think that, like I said, it was a much more spirited, much more upbeat practice. That's what they enjoyed. The toughest times is those times in between those 4 hours now where, they try to find out all the information that maybe they missed during the 3 hours of occupancy where we were meeting and having practice, to kind of get locked back in and focus for what we do at night as well. So we've been up and down. I mean, I think we've had some really good practices, but the emotions have been a roller coaster just based on everything that's going on.
Coach, you talked about the desire for information on their part. How much is those maybe evening meetings, whether they're in person or virtual, where you might be going over playbook stuff, how much is that now talking about medical questions or just general big picture questions?
We've had a few. We've had a few. I don't know that it'll continue. I know this, that, I made a deal with them to make sure that every night when we have a team meeting, it's a little bit different. A lot of times we're watching video as a group, making points, doing things like that. The gist of our night meetings will be any new information that I can give them and any new questions that can come up. And, we'll see how that continues to go. I think that they feel better when, they are hearing at least from me. Not that I always have all the information, not that I can give them what it is that they want, because there's a lot of things that we have no idea. So I think, but when you say that to them, when you tell them, when they trust you, I think it still makes them feel better, even when you say you don't know, because they feel like sometimes a lot of people know or what they read when it's not always the truth. So we'll continue. I think this is a very flexible time, and I mean that in not just how we practice, when we practice, but also in what it is that we do as well. If it's all football, that's great, and we can get back to that. But we also know that there's a lot of other things that are every bit as important. And I'm not just saying that football is the only thing that's important, and I'm not just saying that COVID information is important. It's important to make sure that they understand in their minds that they have a voice, they have a say, and more than anything, they can ask whatever it is they need to ask.
Across the country, players have been saying we want to play, sharing their desire to have a season. How much do you feel like the players' voices are being heard in this conversation?
It's hard to tell. I know that the basically from what I look at and what I know, the last day or even probably the last half of yesterday, I felt like there was a big push in sentiment that I had not seen. Normally, you hear of the negative things. You hear of the demands and things like that have come out of college football. I don't know that that's always the majority, but a lot of times the smaller portion of them, the guys that speak the loudest or say the things the most or put it out publicly, get heard a little bit more. I think it's been a really good 12, 14 hours of just at least hearing the positive side of things of the young men that really, maybe haven't spoken and said their opinion, but you're starting to hear a lot more of it. And I think that that's where, a lot more people are starting to open their eyes, maybe whether they're presidents, whether they're commissioners, whether they're different things. And, they've got to understand and probably get a pulse of what the 18 to 22-year-olds are really feeling.
As a lifer, a former player, a guy that's been in this game, since you were, 6, probably 7.
Define lifer. What do you mean by life? You're like, I can't do anything outside of this? Like,
No, this is what you've done your whole life.
Oh, because I can dig ditches too. If this doesn't work out,
I mean, you'd probably be good at that.
I can dig ditches too. Lay asphalt.
You might make some more friends that way.
There we go. I probably would.
What's your stance on these guys finding a voice and becoming more vocal and doing something that this sport has not seen in 100 years?
Look, I think everybody's different. I speak a lot, and I speak a lot to our group, to our guys. I listen a lot to our guys. I don't do a lot out there publicly and socially. I just believe that it's more important to make sure that we've got great communication within our program, within our athletic department, within our university. So for those guys, you probably don't see as much of our guys maybe doing that. And I don't know if that's because, I don't encourage them. If other people do encourage, I don't know. I know our guys have a voice. I know they speak pretty freely. I know it's not always the easiest thing, but we've become a lot better at speaking freely in here as a team, as individuals. But I challenge them to, not just speak, but also to make their decisions for themselves. I think too often right now, a lot of people's decisions and the things that they say are influenced by the people that are around them, when the reality is your best voice and the best things that you can say are the things that you've kind of sat in solitude and thought about first, and decisions that you've made for yourself. And so that's, for me, as more than anything, I've challenged them to, hey, there's a lot of things that you need to make a decision for yourself. You can't make a decision based on what your buddy thinks or what I think or what a group of people think in this time and in a lot of the things. We have to make decisions for ourselves and then be able to move forward. So I hope our guys have done that. Again, I don't know that they speak it publicly, which, I'm not against. I'm not for or against it. But I think as a group, I think we do a lot of things, that doesn't get put out there publicly.
Coach, how long are you guys planning on being out at higher ground, and how much is that bubble an advantage for you guys during all of this? Just health, mental, everything.
We're going to stay the whole year. We would have a revolt just in case. That was one of their big questions. If they shut down football, we heard that you're going to keep us out here for a couple more weeks and just practice. I said, well, let's get this cleared up right away. We have families as well, and it wouldn't be a bad thing for me to get to go see my family too. So I love you guys and all, but if for some reason something happened, yeah, we would have the first bus back. But our plans have not changed. We're going to be out here probably till the 22nd. Maybe we'll adjust a little bit based on how things go here the next 7, 8, 10 days. But our plan was always to come back on the 22nd. School starts on the 24th, and kind of go from there. So we haven't changed that plan as of right now.
Coach, to piggyback on the great Chad's question, and I'm not talking about digging ditches here, but you're seeing a lot of these players talking about potentially not unionizing because that's not legal within the current rules and structure of college football, but organizing in a way that would allow them to have their voices be heard at the table with presidents and the decision makers here. As a former student athlete, do you support the players having that platform?
I for sure. I think that I think first and foremost, it's really important that you have that within your program, and then it can grow from there. I know for us and for me, I think it's really important that our guys have not just a platform with the other guys from the other schools, but a platform to be able to speak with our own president. So that's going to be something that I've talked about encouraging our guys. But it's hard at times because if you have two guys representing your team, there's a team full of 120 people with not always the same intentions or always the same beliefs. So I don't think it's the easiest thing in the world, but I do think it's necessary. And how it's done is going to be a unique thing. Like I said, with our league, I think sometimes we're so scattered, meaning it's newer, there's not as many ties to even regionally. So for me, a lot of the things that I want our guys to do are based on our program, based on our AD, and based on our president, and to be a part of whatever else is out there, whether it's our league or the other leagues. I think our guys should have every bit as much of a opportunity to say what they believe as well.
Time for a couple more questions, guys.
Hey, Luke, can you fill us in on maybe some tough conversations you've had to have with some parents? I mean, I'm sure they may have reached out and they have questions, and there's maybe some questions you don't really know the answers to. Can you share with us?
We have had we've had some as we came in. We were actually supposed to have a parents meeting last night. I had scheduled it about a week ago, and we were going to have a parents meeting last night. I ended up canceling the parents meeting last night just because of sheer fact of there's so much that we didn't know, and I knew that it was going to turn into, and I wanted them to ask questions, and it'd probably be too much stuff that I would not be able to answer, not because I don't want to answer it, because I have no idea on how to answer it or what's really going on. So we informed them that, hey, we're going to push this back, whether it's Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, just let's push it back so that I can have some better understanding of at least where we are so I can give you some more information. I was thinking the information was going to be, hey, here's where we are schedule-wise, here's where we are fans-wise, here's where we are travel-wise. And within that 24 hours, everything kind of flipped, and I didn't feel like they were going to want to hear about fans and travel and schedule as much as all the other things. So I hope they're pretty well informed. I've asked these guys here to make sure they communicate with their parents, as a lot of them probably don't. But we did. We had one before we went to camp, and we had several of them as the guys came in. They have been pretty good. I know how that is too. It's just like having a team meeting. There are some guys that got a lot of things rolling through their head, and sometimes they're worried about asking it. But I think we've got to do even a better job, and that's what I plan to do this week, to make sure that they know what's going on and they feel comfortable with it.
Coach, if you haven't heard or seen the transcript of what Mike Oresco said yesterday to the Memphis radio station, he said, we think the student athletes could well be and likely will be worse off if they don't play for all sorts of reasons we can discuss. They might be outside not getting tested, not knowing they have the disease, and the outcome could be a lot worse. Do you think that's a consensus in the AAC?
I know it's a consensus with me and with us and what we have here. I really do. I don't try to give my opinion to the guys, but I've told them over and over again, and I've told their families as well, that I truly believe there's no better place that they're going to be taken care of. And I mean that, meaning not that say you're free from getting the virus. That's not the case. I think no matter what it is we do, we are not free of getting the virus unless we quarantine and lock ourselves in our own place. But there's going to be no better care. You're going to be around people that are going to be tested. You're going to be around people that are trying to do everything that they're supposed to do, meaning making some sacrificing, making good decisions. And then if you should get it, you're not going to be cared for and treated any better, meaning, we don't know all the long-term effects, but my own child at home, if he gets it, when he gets over it, he is not going to be checked on. He's not going to have a heart MRI and an EKG and blood work and be monitored, in every workout that he has, like our guys will here. So personally, I feel like there is no better place for them. Now, that's a decision they got to make, but there's no better place, there's no doubt in my mind, for them to be than to be in our care, to have something that they're committed to, so they are encouraged to make those sacrifices, whether they're on campus or they're back home. I'll reiterate that to the parents. I have before we even came out here, and I'll continue to reiterate that. Our people do a phenomenal job, and will continue to do a phenomenal job, and our guys will be in no better care.
One more question.
From a football on-field sense, are you where you would prefer to be 23 days away from a first game? Obviously, the offseason kind of made that tougher than normal, but how do you feel just in terms of preparation for being on the field?
It's unique. I mean, I think that, if you said, hey, where were you compared to last year or the year before or the first year, we're still in a much better place. But it has been tough. We've got guys that are in quarantine that haven't practiced. We've got guys that are out for different reasons, and not usually because of injuries right now. So it's made it more difficult in some of those things to know exactly how you look and what you got. But in a positive way, I tell you what, it's getting a lot of guys a lot of opportunities. You take a guy like John Williams, who's a true freshman, who's got a chance to be really good, but he's been running with the ones and been getting an incredible amount of experience going against a really, really, really good defensive line. So there's been an amazing amount of opportunities for some of these young guys to grow because of the situation, because of having some guys that just can't practice. So I think that where we aren't where we want to be to win a championship, because it's hard to tell just yet, not having spring football, I think we're going to be much deeper and more developed with a lot of young guys than I think we've ever been before.